So here I wanted to show you the actual sort of brain of all of this, and I'll show you the other effects in just a second, but you can see the door here for a reference point. And what I've done is tried to hide the electronics as best I can. So what I did is I created a false panel in this setup, and I was going to put a handle of some sort, maybe a rock outcropping or some ruins or something like that. I may still do that, but at this point, I have so many other things to work on. I'm leaving that towards the end and see, what kinds of options, time-wise, funding-wise, etc., that will be available for that. But basically, I've built this box, and there are currently a couple small divots that have finger holes that allow you to get just a little bit under there, and then you can remove the panel and you can get access to the electronics. Now the box inside of this has not been finished. I'll be painting that so it looks more uniform and a little cleaner. But what I've done is basically use a piece of hardboard for the panel and then built that up to match the surrounding topography so that it looks pretty seamless when it's in there. I'm pretty pleased with how that came out. I think the seam could be just a hair tighter, but overall I'll take it for this first attempt. So here you see the electronics that are in here, and basically what I've done is I've taken all the wires from all of the sections that are lit, buried them within the piece, all leading to this one spot, and then installed all of the electronics in here so that the customer can have easy access to them, with the idea being that you can pull it out and rest it on the shelf. The wires are just a little short to be able to set it on the table, so it's going to have to sit right here. The decision making on how to set this up was its own deal, as originally I wanted I wanted the top of the box to actually be the door, and that would be filled and be the matching hidden panel. But when I realized how it opens, right, the back edge is going to recede as it opens, and so that hinge point prevented that from being done. So I ended up with a few other ideas that didn't work, and so this is the one I ended up settling on. Now, when we'll take a closer look at this abomination of electronics here in just a second. Oh God, I hope nobody in the electronics world sees this. But some things were good and some things were not, so, I'm learning. But just to show you how things are going to work in general, and I'll pull back just a little bit here, and let's see here. Oh, I know. I have the tripod in a crazy arrangement, which is fantastic for flexibility, but has a lot of learning in terms of how to orient it for the newbie. So basically inside here there are two batteries that run the set. This is a battery pack, mobile power. It's a 6,600 milliamp battery pack that has two outputs. It has a 2 amp output as well as a 1 amp output. It's a steady state 5 volt output from it, which is really nice because that keeps it consistent for determining resistor values and other aspects of the wiring for the lights. And the battery pack charges with a micro USB on the side, and one of the nice things about it is you have a micro USB connection into the board, so you could remove this cord, flip it around, jack this into the computer to charge it, and then jack the other end into the battery pack itself. Now it turns out that I fried one of these battery packs in my journey, if you will. So I actually have a spare USB cord that I will be sending along to the customer, so he does not need to remove it from the circuit board, which will prevent wear and tear, and also it's just a little tight in there to get your fingers in there, so it'll just make it a little easier to pull this out and charge it off of your computer. It takes a couple hours to charge, and the on-off button is here, and that's what turns it on. When the lights are full, it's full charge, and as they go down, you know how much charge is left in the battery, proportionally. But there is no way to turn it off except unplugging it. I thought that was a weird feature. Once it detects that there is no current being drawn from it for 30 seconds, it will power down, and then there you go, and now it's off. So you could even plug it back in, stick it back in the box, and it will stay off until you reactivate it at the button here. So that's the first power source. The second power source is a 9-volt battery. There are 2 jacks for the 9 volts. The jacks are wired in parallel so that you could put in 2 9-volt batteries to have double life for them. I recommend always doing that because the light draw, this is actually the exclusively running this panel, which is the panel that is causing the cascade of lights down the waterfall. So that's the bright effect with the staggered drop. That, with all those lights, is pulling almost, I think it's pulling, well, not quite, but almost an amp. That's a lot of juice to pull out of these batteries, so they're not going to last very long. I think with the 2 of them, you're probably going to get 2 hours maybe of runtime, maybe 3. There are rechargeable 9 volts available, but they are pretty expensive for an initial set. To get 2 9 volts, or to get 4 rechargeables with a charger that does 2 9 volts, is like $127. So if you just want to run it off of alkalines, get 2 good alkalines, plug it in, and you should be fine. So let's come in real close on this, and I'll show you basically how it's wired up, sorta, and we can talk about some of the things that went well and some that didn't. So here you can see the panel that is running the cascade. Now, what I did is I realized that I wanted something simpler, as I had already been struggling with programming and the programmable minimums that I've been using for some of the effects in the other areas are not bright enough for the lava, so I needed something that could run a staggered pattern that was basically a kit right out of the box. That's what I ended up going with. You can see here that it has an arrow shape. This is designed to accept, oh gosh, I can't remember, maybe 100 LEDs, and then it will power them across like this to give an arrow effect, and then you can adjust the speed of that. So what I did is I pulled those out. Well, I didn't install them, I should say, and then I wired in each pair of the 220,000 LEDs, so that each one is getting the pulse of, as it circles, as it strobes across the line. So I don't entirely understand exactly everything that's going on here, as I'm not entirely sure why this capacitor is here, and this is a 555 chip, that I get, but this is a different chip, and somehow that is altering the clocking of the signals, but in any case, that is the basics of how this board was used. Then what I wanted to do is install the switches on it. This switch runs the caves, this switch runs the passageway, and this switch was intended to run the lava. When I hooked this up and I realized that the original lights weren't powering the lava, I wanted to tap into these brighter lights to give the effect so that it would look bright. What I did then, and this is where it got gross, is I hacked into these lines and ran another series of wires to this switch so that you could turn off either the pulsing or you could turn off the static state. Basically, once I determined how many resistors I needed, and of course I don't have a wide variety of resistors, so you can see here I needed 60 ohms, and so what I ended up having to do was wire in 4 15s to get that. Once I did that, it actually caused this switch to be irrelevant because it was, I think, allowing enough power to be drawn by the transistors, resistors, and that is causing some current to flow to the staggered pattern as well as to the steady state. Since I think that's the optimum configuration, I got lucky because when I installed this switch, I put a little drop of super glue behind it because I went in after the fact, and when I did that, it actually froze the switch. So the switch no longer switches. Boo. But you know, at least the effect that it produces is nice, so I'll take it. So you can see here that the caves have their own little switch for the two effects that they have. I'll show you those in a second. And then the passageway for its two effects, and I'll show you that as well. Lastly, just to give a quick look, whoa, hey. This is the circuit board that runs off of the 5-volt system, and then that powers all of the caves and the passageway as well as the original static lights for the lava. This is you know, a sort of open circuit board that you can wire up yourself, and as you can see, I had quite a few things coming into it that I had to do. This was kind of a nightmare in the sense of chasing down shorts. This was a nightmare in chasing down shorts. Yeah. I'm not even going to talk more about how much time I've spent on this, of my own time, because it's learning time for electronics. Solder your wire connections. Solder your wire connections. That's all I'm going to say. So here, I contacted SparkFun about how I could jack in this power pack into a circuit board, and they happen to provide also on their site, SparkFun is where I got most of these components, a USB adapter, so that basically you can plug in the micro USB and then you can wire in your connection so you can connect it to a circuit board. So that made all of this possible basically, and that gives you a sense of you know, at least you know, a very general sense what was involved. To make the switches work for the minims, you have to have 3 wires coming out for the minims. One goes to a alternate input, so you have 2 for the positive and negative obviously, and 1 for the what the D input on the chip, and 1 other wire could be brought in. It'd be the 4th wire, and that would allow you to program the minims. I didn't do that, and I really wish I could, because then I could have changed them even when they were built in. So, you know, lesson learned. But in any case, that's an overview of the crazy electronics that I've been cobbling together. Originally, I expected this to look clean and beautiful and just like professional, and when I started doing all of this, it got ugly. And in fact, you can see up there in that corner, I actually had one of the wires break. I need to choose a higher gauge wire for the next time I do this. One of the wires broke at the board after I had epoxied it in, so that meant that I had to get my Dremel out and cut into the copper plating so that I could solder it from this side. That was the start of my problems. Oh, as a final mention, you may be wondering why these aren't all, you know, shrink tubed or whatever to protect them from shorts. I got some shrink tubing. I couldn't find any small enough to fit this gauge of wire. And I used it elsewhere. I'm not going to talk about that, but I have some what they call liquid electrical tape. It's basically like a rubber goo, and you paint it onto surfaces and it produces an insulation. So that is what has been done here. And then at some point I gave up trying to make this look clean, and I just glued in a few twisty ties to hold everything in place. I don't think I could make this look worse at this point, so I decided let's not get any fancier and get it done, and I threw it in there. As a last comment on this, right here, I just want to point out, this is a potentiometer that will allow you to change the speed of the cascade of the waterfall. There's a little screwdriver slot here, and you can turn this up or down in order to alter the speed of the waterfall. So that's another feature for adjusting the effect on the piece. So let's take a quick look at some of the effects in the passageway and the caves, and that'll wrap it up. So this is the passageway with the sliding doors. Now in hindsight, for the next time, I'd like to make these doors have slightly more fluid motion. If you're gentle with them, they will be relatively fluid, but I think I'll have to develop better track for them, a recessed track for them to slide in and out. But we'll take it for right now. You can see it got quite dirty with all of the painting, but I'll be able to paint over that. And inside the cave, or the passageway, I should say, I don't know if that's coming in. Let me move in a little closer. So looking in the passageway, and the camera I think is going to distort some of the lighting effects because the LEDs are pulsing at a certain pulse width modulation rate that causes some of that distortion, but you get the general sense. This is the original blue effect that I had put in as the pulsing blue, and then when you throw the switch in the control box, after they cycle through that phase, then they'll come up with a flicker flame effect that will give the impression of, oh, why is that not? That looks a little dim there. Let's see here. I don't know if it's going to look brighter in post-editing. So here you can see the second effect, the flame, sort of flicker fire. And what I did actually is that I had two of the minims weren't working properly in these side passageways, and I decided, I wasn't sure why, but I needed to pull them out. Maybe I caused shorts in them. As I said, I had some troubles. So I actually had to carve into the body of the cliff, open up brand new areas so that I could get access to these minims in the backfield and then take them out. Once I did that, I decided, hey, I'm in here already. So I added in two flicker fire bulbs in addition to the minim to brighten it up a bit and bring a little more light and also a little bit more of a more interesting flicker fire effect. So that's what I did in here, and I'm hoping that the minims stay stable now. I did see this do a couple green flashes at some point. I don't know about that. But in any case, this gives you a sense of how the effects are supposed to look, and hopefully they'll remain like that over time. So here you can see the caves, two of them at least, and the effect that is going on inside them. Again, this strobing that you're seeing in the image is because of the pulse width modulation of the minims that are installed. So those are the programmable LEDs that are in the passageway as well. By the way, right here is where I had to basically carve into this piece to get access to that minim and then restore it all before I painted it. Yeah. Anyway, so I put in two effects in the caves. Since these are designed to be used either with the fantasy side or with the World War II side, I wanted a static on light that would look more like an incandescent bulb. So I went for something a little bit more white, and we'll take a closer look inside of these in a second. But I wanted to show you them with a little bit of distance behind them. And so when I change it, it will go to a flicker fire effect. And again, here I put in an extra flicker fire bulb in addition to the minim so that it would give it a little bit more brightness and a little bit more interest. And I think that that came out really well. Of course, these are the last things that I lit, and so they're probably the best overall in terms of quality as I'm learning along the way. They're also, because it's a shallower opening, their brightness really comes through, and you can really see that even in bright light when you're sort of looking at them as you're askance to them, if you will. So we'll take a deep look into one of the caves, and you can get a sense of what's going on in there. So here you get a sense of the inside of the cave. Now I'm actually showing you the worst of the three caves because this minim is doing something a little weird when it goes into its fire effect and you get that purple flash. I'm not sure why, but it kind of makes it look like the cave's on fire or something like that. But anyway, you get a sense of the interior texture of it and a little bit of the color. And if I switch its effect, and so here you can see the incandescent effect, then that gives you a little bit better idea about the color. It's not quite true, of course, because the LED has a slightly bluish cast onto it, but you get a sense of the internal texture again of the cave, a little bit about its color, and some of the original black came through. You can see a little bit there and a little bit there, and I thought in a little bit here, and I thought that was kind of nice as it breaks up that effect and gives it almost like there's some other ores that have been revealed inside the internal cave. So that gives you a sense of how the lighting of the caves came out. So far it's pretty good. There's a couple small problems with it, but I'm willing to accept that at this stage as a first attempt in overall for this project. And there's quite a bit of variation here to learn from. So hopefully you stuck around for all of those segments. I feel like I got rambly for sure in a couple of them. So many things to talk about, and so many things to do with my tripod. Can I just say this tripod rocks? It does more things than I ever knew it could and barely understand. But I was able to get some unique angles with it, and it was a little longer to shoot, but pretty cool to play with that. Anyway, this isn't about my tripod. One thing I noticed on the cliff, actually, once I pulled the lights away from it to move back over to the bench, is that the static 5-volt lights under the lava are actually a little bit brighter if you dim the lights a little bit. So they seem to be looking better and better every step of the way when I've been tweaking with them. So that is a discussion of the surface as well as the lava, as well as the electronics, and a look inside the caves. If you have any questions or comments about any of this, feel free to leave them down below. I've been really remiss in getting to my comments, and it's been partly because I've been working so hard on this, but once I edit these videos and they start going up, I will be carving through them. So if you haven't gotten an answer from me in a while, fear not, an answer is coming. There's other things I could talk about, potential mailing lists I'm working on, when's the store going to open. So I think in the near future I will probably do a sort of info video that will cover some of those things in their own detail, isolated from this kind of work coverage. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully you will come back and join me for another video. And if you are new to the channel, I just want to say welcome, and thank you for joining me on this crazy terrain train. I do encourage you to take a look at some of the playlists on these large projects, and so you can follow along and see them from their beginning inception to where we are right now. So keep an eye on the channel. I will be back fairly soon with another video. Probably won't be a full 2-week break, and hopefully you'll come back and join me then.